Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Mrs. Mae Schmidt. Rabbi Jacob Leisman from North Shore Congregation Israel will be officiating. For those of you here in attendance, please be sure that your phones have been turned off. We welcome those of you joining us via live stream. This time the rabbi is going to approach the family. If I can ask Mae's 3 children to please rise. As the rabbi approaches to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, then we'll begin the sacred funeral ceremony.
We remember Mae Schmidt and join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to each other as her family, her friends, and her community. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions, both bitter and sweet, and we'll begin our service with the recitation of psalms, prayers, and readings, thus linking Mae's life with the millennia-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. We'll begin with Psalm 23. I will chant the Hebrew, and then I'll invite us all to read the English that is in the inside cover of your pamphlet. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. And together, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. From Psalm 121. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian, Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. Adonai will guard your going and coming now and forever. And we now have an opportunity to hear from those who knew Mae best, her family. And we'll start with Mae's daughter, Liz.
Hi. On Thursday, David, the funeral director, was asking me information to complete the death certificate. He asked, "What did your mom do? What was her title?" Immediately, I said, "Best mom ever." And she really was. Love and devotion. My mom was the most devoted and loving mother to myself and my siblings. Things were slower back then, not nearly as many things competing for our attention like today. We spent a lot of time together as a family. Special memories include eating dinner together every night, going to Lockwood Castle to celebrate every birthday, grocery shopping at High-Low and Wilmette, and always having a hot dog and grape soda at the stand, and Jewish holidays with all my grandparents. She sewed all my clothes until I was in the 2nd grade, and I remember the first outfit we bought at a store. I was so excited. I wore it to school for 3 days in a row. When we moved to the bigger house when I was in 2nd grade, our house became the pool party house. It was always a yes to any friends I wanted to have over, and Mom always made sure we had snacks and food. As I grew older, her devotion never waned, only grew stronger. Always available to talk about problems and happy times. Schools, friends, boys, no topic was off limits. Endlessly rooting for us no matter the situation. Love and friendship. When I became an adult, our relationship not only grew, but flourished. She was my mom and my best friend. We spoke a lot, several times a day most days. A lot of conversations were short, just to tell each other something funny that happened, or me asking a question like, "What was your chicken soup recipe again?" When I married and I had children, I really realized what an amazing mom she was. She always had the wisdom and patience to guide me in my new role as a mother. Never judging, always encouraging when times were hard, and celebrating me with me when obstacles were overcome. I love how much she loved my husband and children, and I loved how much they loved her back. My mom's favorite pearl of wisdom to share was, "Do your best. It's all you can do." My parents were our family's biggest fans. All 3 of my kids played numerous sports, and they rarely missed games and matches. They were so proud when they all graduated college and had wonderful careers ahead of them. They were hugely invested in their lives, and it made me very happy that the 3 generations loved being together. When I lost Dale, my mom jumped in as my person. Not like we didn't talk 5 times a day before this loss, but now it was even more. Always checking on me and trying to make me feel less alone. When she lost my dad, we would talk about how it felt, and our bond became even stronger. Love and honor. As the years went on, my mom became older and weaker. She really was well until she was 89, and then suffered a major heart attack. I thought I might lose her, which was devastating. But she fought her way back and enjoyed a couple more good years. In the fall of 2023, she was hospitalized for a while, and I feel like that started her decline. Mom, I just want to say it's been the honor of my life to love you and to help care for you these past months. It wasn't always easy, but important, and life-changing things never are. I know my grief is large because our love was large. Please give Dale, Dad, and Jerry a kiss for me, and if you can visit, come and let me know you're watching over us.
And now Cindy. Yep.
Okay. I need my pen. I want to thank everyone for coming today to remember and honor my mother's life. It truly means a lot to our family. My dad died 3 years ago today. His service was in this exact room. Coincidentally, it was a Monday. However, his was blizzard-like conditions with negative 20 degrees temperature. Thank God the weather is different today. Another difference from that service is the room was sparse. Only immediate family was allowed, and we were seated as far away as possible due to COVID gathering restrictions. I must say, it feels so good to be surrounded by extended family and friends. My mom was 93 years old. She was a very healthy and strong woman up until the age of 90. Since then, my mom has several very serious health issues, but she fought hard and she bounced back. Her recent battle in the fall of 2023, and since then, it became increasingly more difficult to survive. Wait a second, where am I? Oh, I'm sorry. Survived the last few months. During her occasional moments of despair, which were not many, she would say, "Why is this happening to me?" Her body weakening at a slow pace, knowing the final moments were before her, struggling with every breath and every step. My reply was that we can't choose how death occurs, some with great pain, endless doctor appointments and treatments, some suddenly out of nowhere, some young and some old, and others like you, Mom, at a slow pace till the final curtain. What I do know is that you can only script how you live. My mom chose to be a devoted daughter to her parents that arrived in this country in 1922. Her parents had fled the hardships of Russia in search of a better life in America. She had 2 older brothers, Dave and Maury. Her family valued education, hard work, and Judaism. It was a loving home. My mom chose to be a lovely wife and partner to my dad for over 70 years. They raised 4 children, Jerry, me, Liz, and Richard. They instilled love, the importance of education, Jewish values and identity, and so much more. We were all bar and bat mitzvahed, we kept kosher, we lit Shabbat candles, and went to synagogue quite often. We chose to celebrate all holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries together. We enjoyed being in our beautiful home, especially the gorgeous backyard, which even included a swimming pool. My mom was a wonderful, loving mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. She never said no and was always there to support us. She showed up to everything with my dad, near and far. In 2000, my brother Jerry passed away suddenly at the young age of 47. My parents' hearts were broken. There was an ache that never went away, perhaps subsided or tucked away in a special chamber, but always present. Her last and loving caregiver, Mariana, who was only with my mom for 2.5 weeks, told me about a conversation with Mom. She said, "Mae, you have had a very good life. 4 children, 10 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren, with a 7th on the way." In her weakened condition, Mom looked to correct the statement, It was a good life, but not a very good life. We knew what she meant. She could not have had a very good life after Jerry's passing. So I thought, how did my mom choose to live her life? What were her strengths and superpowers? It was quite simple. She was nice. She was kind. She was a good person that saw the good in others. She was genuine. She was caring. She was warm. People liked my mom and remember her fondly. She had integrity. She was loyal. She was beautiful inside and out. She smiled and she made you feel comfortable. My mom chose to live with qualities that were simple, yet so very important. In the final months, all hands were on deck. We were all there to help. She consistently expressed her gratitude and how much she appreciated us. We were a team. In our quiet moments together, which I knew were dwindling, I felt blessed and lucky that I was able to help and spend this short time we had left on earth together. I knew how special those moments were and how special my mom was. So now, Mom's wonderful life is over. She knew that she was loved and adored by her family, and we knew that she cherished us all. I am comforted to know that she lived a long and happy life, and she is at peace. Joining my loving dad, my devoted brother, Jerry. Angel May has arrived. I love you, love you, love you, and miss you already.
Really beautiful tributes to your moms. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Cindy and Brett. We're now going to go to the next generation of Mae's family, and I'll invite up Chad to offer his remarks.
I'm bringing my wife Marley in case I don't get through this. Few people have the good luck and the great fortune to spend 41 years with a grandparent. I had that honor. Grandma Mae was a terrific woman. She treated everyone kindly and with respect. She never was the center of attention, but she was the center of our family always. Family was by far the most important thing to her. That includes her love for her parents, for Grandpa Irwin, for her kids, and for her grandkids. And though the last few years were difficult for Grandma, they also contained blessings. She got to meet her great-grandkids, my children, Ella and Ezra. We visited her often and captured many moments in pictures that will stay with us a lifetime. It filled my grandma with immense joy to see my kids and my family. Family to Grandma also included my wife Marley, whom she adored. My grandma would call Marley a balabusta. I have been informed that this is the rare Yiddish word that actually has a positive meaning. It's it means an extremely competent and self-assured homemaker. And to my grandma, it was the greatest compliment that you could give to a mother. Family to Grandma extended to her brothers and to their families, and it extended far beyond that. About 10 years ago, we received an email from someone claiming to be a long-lost relative in Russia. We were all skeptical, and I told my grandma not to give them her social security number. It turned out to be descendants of her father's siblings who fled the Nazis and went to Russia. Some of those family members later came to Chicago for her 65th wedding anniversary. She said that her father would be amazed that nearly 100 years after the Holocaust, her family would come together full circle. My grandma recently told me that she wondered whether my memories of her would include times when she was younger and more active. So I wanted to offer a few moments from years ago. First is a story that she told me on every birthday, and more recently, she would tell it more frequently. Even before I was born, my grandma was at my mom's ultrasound, and when she saw my heartbeat, she said, "Hello, sweetheart." Even before I was born, I knew that she was a good judge of character. When I was 3, my parents planned a trip to Hawaii and to Asia and left me and my sister with a babysitter. Just as they had plans, so did I. You can imagine the horror that my mom must have felt when she called to check in on us and my grandma answered the phone. She explained to my mom that I had memorized my grandma's phone number, called her to come get us, and then I fired the babysitter. My mom wanted to fly back, but my grandma told her that she had everything under control. Just as I predicted, my grandma was there for us. My grandma and I shared a love of old movies, and one of her favorites was Citizen Kane. The main character lived in a castle called Xanadu, and my grandma told me that it was modeled after Hearst's castle, which she had always wanted to see. So fast forward to 2005, when I graduated from Stanford. All of my living grandparents came to the graduation, and afterward, my mom, grandpa, and I took a road trip together along California's coast. We drove down Highway 1, which is a scary drive if you have my fear of heights. And my grandma sat in the passenger seat and engaged me in endless chatter to take my mind off the cliffs. We finally got to Hearst Castle, which we toured. About 3 years later, I was invited to my law school friend's wedding in Newport, Rhode Island. My grandma had told me long before then that Newport was the home of palatial estates of the Vanderbilts, Doris Duke, and others. She'd seen pictures of those estates when she was a kid in some magazine, and had always wanted to see them. I did not have a +1 for the wedding, but I invited my grandma to come with me on the trip. We hiked the Freedom Trail in Boston. We also took a road trip through Cape Cod, and she had mentioned that she had friends there that she had not spoken to in a decade, so I made her call them. The call opened with, "Hello, it's Mae Schmidt." There was a pause, and then laughter. My grandma said, "How the hell am I? How the hell are you?" It was the closest I ever heard my grandma come to swearing. Her friends invited us over to a dinner party that night, which I remember well, not only because I was 50 years younger than everyone else there. The meal consisted of a whole lobster placed on every person's plate. My grandma had kept a kosher house, and this was the first and probably only time she ever had lobster. We finished the trip in Newport, where my grandma crashed my law school friend's wedding, and we visited the mansions, fulfilling her childhood dream. It was a great trip together and meaningful to both of us. I close with one final thought. In Judaism, it is tradition to say of the dead, "May their memory be for a blessing." I've always liked that phrase because it gives us some power in the face of death. We can take action to remember the deceased and hopefully improve things around us. I don't have to wonder what type of blessing my grandmother would wish for all of us in her memory. I was scrolling through my phone and came upon this gem from my grandparents' 69th wedding anniversary in 2019. And hopefully I've given the video to the people here and that they could play it, but if not, I have it on my phone. Could they make it louder? and start over? Here, I'll just do it.
Trust me, there's nothing in life more important than family. When everything is, other things seem to be important, but they're really unimportant. The most important thing you have in your whole life is your family. So cherish them. If you get annoyed with them, okay, it's family, what are you going to do? And just love each other, care for each other, look out for each other, and you'll all have good lives, I hope and pray.
May her memory be for a blessing, and may it be for that blessing in particular.
Now Mae's granddaughter Ashley and great-granddaughter Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace. I knew my great-grandma for 8 years. When I went to her house, at the end I will kiss her 4 times. It does not matter how many years I knew my great-grandma. It matters how much I loved her. And I loved her very much. Now she's in heaven. I love you forever.
Okay. I don't want to cry. Okay. I always felt especially close. This is the easy part of the speech. Okay. I always felt especially close to my grandma. She was sweet and thoughtful and always put family first. Her legacy is her family and the immense love she had for us and the bond we all share and will carry with us forever. I was lucky to grow up with my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins nearby. We were always together, celebrating holidays and birthdays and enjoying family barbecues, July 4th fireworks, Super Bowls, and even vacations together. As a kid, I loved spending time at their beautiful home in Evanston. But truthfully, I don't really remember the house. What I remember is their huge backyard with so much green space, their hot tub, and most of all, their swimming pool with a giant star on the bottom of it. It was just another reason to get together and have fun as a family. My very favorite memories of my grandma were visiting their beautiful home in Palm Desert every spring break. We spent our days swimming, eating lunches at the clubhouse, going to the awesome flea market, and playing endless hours of bridge, fan-tan, and board games. A month or 2 after my daughter was born, which was only 8 years ago, I went to the doctor with a complication that should have been a minor in-office procedure. It ended up being more serious, with my parents in Florida and my husband at home with our 2 kids. My grandma and grandpa, who were in their mid and late 80s, drove to the doctor's office to pick me up and take me to the emergency room. It's crazy to think how much has changed in 8 years and how even 8 years ago, when I was in a time of need, they were there to take care of me. Over the last year, there were a few times that my parents told me this might be the end and that I should come, visit, and say my goodbyes. Grandma fought so hard and for so long. She couldn't have done it without the support of all of her children. And if I can just take a moment to talk about my parents, and I say parents, not only my mom, but my dad too. You took the very best care of her and nursed her back to health countless times. I could go on, but it really isn't about my parents. All I can say is that you are both unbelievable, are a huge inspiration and example, and deserve all the praise in the world. I saw my grandma
for the last time 14 days before she passed away. She was able to sit at the kitchen table with me, my mom, my Aunt Liz, and my brother Chad. My mom asked Grandma, what does she remember the most about us? She said, Chad is going to do great things. And my mom corrected her that Chad is doing great things. Eric wasn't there, but he called on FaceTime. And she said Eric was always the sweetest. And she said Ashley was always so pretty, and she loved coming to all of my volleyball and softball games. I told her that I looked like my mom, who looks like her. I said, we got it from you, Grandma. I am so fortunate that I had her in my life for 39 years. She was always there for my big moments and my small moments. She never failed to call me on my birthday and tell me the story of the day I was born. She was not only a constant in my childhood, but got to see the amazing life I made for myself as an adult. She knew my husband for 19 years, our son Eli for 10 years, and our daughter Grace for 8 years. My kids are old enough and will always remember their great-grandma. Whenever she said goodbye to me, she would always end with, take care of your beautiful family. Grandma, I love you, love you, love you.
And now we'll hear from Lauren.
Grandma don't take no jive. Let me set the scene. It's 2001 and we're in Palm Desert, California as a family. This was the first full trip we took since my dad had passed. It was filled with fun, family, and its fair share of chaos. One day, Grandma took me, Lindsay, Eric, Brian, Matt, and Allie to see a musical about none other than Franklin the Turtle. We were in the parking lot, and Grandma had us all in a chain, holding hands with her in the middle. 3 grandkids on one side and 3 on the other. She warned us to hold on and to not run because we were in a parking lot. Legend has it that 2 of us started to run in different directions, and I'll just say it was not me or Lindsay. To stop this, shepherd us back together, and call us out on our BS, Grandma shouted for us to come back and dropped her best one-liner of all time. Grandma don't take no jive. 23 years later, the mantra still lives on. Our grandma was a very special person. She was smart, learned, tall, and would never fail to mention the exponential benefits of being tall. Unapologetically Jewish, and above all, very proud of her family. There are some constants in the life of Grandma. Unless somebody had turned on a sporting event over the last 10 plus years, you could always find a TV playing Fox News or CNBC, whether it was at the house or even in the hospital or rehab. Grandma would always want to play cards, though bridge with her friends was her ultimate game of choice. I can't even count the number of Fantan games we played together. We always had fun and were infinitely entertained. Every time the family was together at the house, you'd hear the iconic big band song, In the Mood, by Glenn Miller, coming out of a Dancing Flowers centerpiece that they somehow procured around 25 years ago and kept ever since. I knew that I could show up at Grandma's looking the least put together I've ever looked in my entire life, and she would tell me that I looked so glamorous. She was exponentially proud of her grandkids, and now 6 going on 7 great-grandkids. The display of all our very, very outdated photos on the wall in their home is a testament to that. I seriously have so many stories I can share about Grandma, but this is one of my favorites. She had asked me to keep her updated on election news in Israel since she wasn't as familiar with how the electoral process worked. I had forwarded her a long email about 5 years ago, and she left me a long voicemail about how she read it and might read the rest. She explained how she wrote me a long email response, but it bounced back because instead of my email name, she addressed it to my dear Lauren. She went on to talk about how she's old, and one day she'll get this email thing down, but to call her back only if I was free and able to, and that now actually she knows how to email back. It's the sweetest message, and I still have it saved on my phone. And if I knew that it would have worked to play it, I would have brought my phone in. But all the anecdotes we have about Grandma will always bring a smile to my face. Grandma loved telling stories, and though they often were repeats, we loved her for it. From hearing about their dog, Honey, to things my dad said as a teen, her stories were echoed throughout time. The nostalgia and humor of hearing the same stories is something that I'll always smile when I think about. It will always be so unapologetically Grandma. Mae Schmidt was a matriarch and a fighter. In 2020, she had a horrible heart attack that could and probably statistically should have killed her, but she called 911 right away and she saved her own life. She fought for 10 days in the ICU, many more in the hospital post-intensive care, and then was moved into rehab. The day that she was transferred to rehab happened to be the same day that the state started quarantining facilities such as these for COVID-19. Her daughters, who inherited her fighting spirit, convinced them to let them act as caretakers for the first week. And we really think that's what got Grandma through that horrible time. Grandma ended up making it her way home in April 2020 in the height of the pandemic. No matter the challenge, Grandma fought. She fought to survive after the sudden tragic death of my father when he was only 47 years old. She fought through Grandpa's health challenges and pandemic death. She fought through more hospital stints, rehab, and many ups and downs following her heart attack. She was always fighting, and even when with a bleak prognosis this last month, we all knew how much she wanted to keep on fighting to see her family grow and thrive. Even 9 days before she died, though I knew she was having her fair share of struggles, it was apparent she was trying so hard to keep herself afloat. When she heard she was starting hospice last Tuesday, I thought we'd have more time, but when we walked into her house on Wednesday night, it was clear that time was limited, and this was about an hour before she passed. With all the love and pride Grandma carried throughout life, she was never the same after my dad's passing. When she was finally transitioned into hospice and forced to relax, I have to believe that she was finally able to stop pushing herself to fight so hard. I think she was finally ready to reunite with her husband of 70 years and her birthday twin, my grandpa, and my father, who she grieved for every moment since we lost him. Well, Grandma, I hope you can finally feel at peace in this special reunion and feel whole again. Your influence will live on forever, and remember, I love you, love you, love you.
And now Lindsay.
I'm Lindsay, Liz's oldest daughter. But to Grandma, or Grammy, as I always called her, I was her Linsla. It is my honor to speak on behalf of our matriarch, my idol, and the person I've always looked up to the most. Grandma used to joke with me that she was a college dropout. She completed some courses at the University of Illinois and left school to prioritize her family, my grandpa, who she would later be married to for over 70 years. What she didn't have in college accolades, she more than made up for in everything else with her wisdom, empathy, patience, and hard work, which allowed her to create the family that is here today. There is nothing more important to Grandma than her family, and if you had your family, you had it all. Grandma and Grandpa were so proud of their children and grandchildren. They showed it in their actions by coming to all of our milestone events, graduations, sports games, recitals, you name it. It didn't matter how big or small, they were always there. Grandma also showed it in her words. Every conversation we had, I left feeling more loved and special, because that is how Grandma made us feel, like we were the most important person in the world. And to her, we were. She cherished family holidays, and our favorite holiday was always Thanksgiving, surrounded by family and good food, and being grateful for what we have. I've lived away from the Chicago area for a long time, almost 15 years since I went away to college, but that never stopped us from growing our very special bond. Grandma and I spoke on the phone several times a week. I'll never forget when I was in medical school studying late into the night, and Grandma was in her 80s, and I would frequently call her at 11 p.m. or midnight on my way home, and she was always awake and available. We talked about everything, not just small stuff, like what test I was studying for, current events, upcoming plans, but deep topics, like how to overcome hardship when my dad passed away, and how to move forward without him here. How do I have a marriage as beautiful as yours and Grandpa's? And more recently, parenting advice and how to raise beautiful, successful, happy children. Grandma was my confidant. I turned to her for advice, no matter how big or small. Her responses always came back to similar themes. Be honest, she frequently said. You'll never regret being honest. Work hard, do the best you can, and take it one day at a time. These are lessons I live by every day because of her and what she taught me. Grandma was the first person I called after my parents with good news. I remember calling her when I first met my now husband, when Ryan and Jack took their first steps, and so many things in between. It was an honor to be her on-call doctor, and although she frequently thought she was being a burden, my response was always the same. You are the opposite. Talking to you makes my day. We never hung up the phone without saying I love you, or in Grandma's words, I love you, love you, love you. Grammy, I'm the woman, the doctor, the wife, and the mother I am because of you. I love you, I miss you, and I will cherish all the memories we have together forever.
As I sat with Mae's family that we just heard from yesterday in her home in Northbrook and learned about her life, one phrase from Jewish tradition kept appearing in my mind. Torah im derech eretz, which means Torah with the way of the land. Originally from the Mishnah, this phrase was popularized in the 19th century as a message for Jewish living in the modern world. With Torah, your traditional Jewish values, and with derech eretz, the ways of the wider society in which one lives. As we just heard from her family, Mae lived a very full, loving life, one that I'd add exemplified this Jewish value of Torah im derech eretz. This starts with Mae's orientation to the world as the daughter of Russian Jewish immigrants to Chicago. She admired her father's davening and Seder leadership. They spoke Yiddish in the home. And after she married Erwin in 1950, her loving husband of 70 years, they similarly raised a family with a commitment to Judaism. They kept a kosher home, were honorable members of the Skokie Valley Agudath Jacob Synagogue, hosted big family gatherings for all the holidays, and by and large lived according to their sense of Jewish values. Mae lived out the Jewish obligation to honor one's parents, kibud av ve'em, by taking great care of her mother into her old age and hosting her parents for weekly dinners, while simultaneously following the instruction to teach one's children, v'shinantam livanecha, by fiercely loving, raising, and supporting her 4 children and then 10 grandchildren. Taking care of both parents and children is a special act of kindness, strength, and Torah. Mae also lived according to derech eretz, the ways of America, the ways of Chicago. She fondly remembered going to the movies with her 2 older brothers growing up for 5 cents a show. This launched a lifelong interest in movies that she would share with her grandchildren, as we learned from Chad, who now have a formidable film education founded in Casablanca and It's a Wonderful Life and Citizen Kane. Mae and her brothers were the great successes of her parents' immigrant story, their American dream, which informed her appreciation of her country, current events, and staying informed on issues of public importance. She loved playing games and played bridge, mahjong, boggle, and card games with friends and family late into her life. Mae would host pool parties in addition to holiday and birthday parties for the whole family. After the project of getting the pool up and running that her sons and sons-in-law, Jerry, Richard, Brett, and Dale, took on themselves and created family memories that will be cherished for generations. Mae was steeped in Judaism and Jewish values while also building a life and a home and a family with Derech Eretz right here in Chicagoland. Mae Schmidt not only lived according to her Jewish and American values, Torah im Derech Eretz, she passed these values on to her family with every phone call, every museum visit, or game with her grandchildren, and every family gathering. She loved and took care of those around her and lived, in her words, a good life. Not without hardship or tragedy, but with a lot of love from and for her parents, her brothers, her husband, her children, her grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and all of you here today. Zichrona livracha, may Mae's memory continue to be a blessing to all those she loved and all who loved her. And as we heard that Mae's life was a blessing in many ways, we now give thanks to God for having been on a journey in life together with her. And in the sadness of her death, we can find comfort in knowing that her soul is bound up in life eternal, and her memory will forever be a blessing. At this time, we offer words of our tradition as we pray that God protects and keeps Mae's soul for eternity. I'll invite everybody to rise if you are able to do so. And I'll chant the words of El Male Rachamim, our memorial prayer, and then we will read the English together, which is on the bottom of the inside cover of your pamphlet. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtze Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utohorim, Kizohar Harakia, Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Yakiratenu Shehalcha Leolama, Baal Harachamim, Yastireha Beseter Kenafav Leolamim, V'yitzror bitzror, Hachaim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, V'nomar Amen. And let's read together. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Mae Schmidt, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may her repose be peace. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at West Lawn Cemetery located at 7801 West Montrose in Norridge. The family will be returning to Max and Benny's at 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook. They'll be together today from 3:30 to 8 p.m. Then they'll be together at the Schmidt residence at 1901 Somerset Lane in Northbrook, Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Information about the Shiva coordinator is all on the service folder. Memorial contributions to the FIDF, the Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, would be appreciated. For those of you who are joining us online, all that information can be found on the funeral home's website. For For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession to the cemetery, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections, and please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. At this time, I invite the grandchildren and great-grandchildren to stand next to Mae's casket to help us escort her to the hearse. Please rise as we escort Mae Schmidt and her family and the rabbi from the chapel. Then you may return to your cars.